So team, welcome back to the day 2 for our Python training. We're gonna try and keep notes for everything that we did in one document. That way it's easy for our reference. So primarily what we did in our day 1 is we went about understanding how to install the latest version of Python, and then we worked with PyCharm, the IDE through which we can write and execute Python programs. And what we were doing is got nothing to do with command prompt or script yet, team. We've just gone with the IDE, PyCharm IDE, and we're doing everything from there. And we were also maintaining an Excel sheet with topics of it. And team, all the videos will be in the YouTube channel. So you need to be able to subscribe to the channel. You'll get notification for it as soon as I upload something new. So I'm going to go to videos and up here Python day 1. I have to take it. And I'm putting it back in the document here. So this document will have the links also. Actually, this is for day 1. Orientation session video should be here. Okay, and Google Doc link is here. So what we did yesterday was installing Python, PyCharm IDE, write some basic simple Python code. What we did was, we focused on only a couple of statements. One is called print statement and our comments, and how we go about working with comments. All right. So when we want, if your PyCharm is closed, team, let's start with opening it. Hit your Windows key and type PyCharm. We're looking at the latest version that we have installed, version 3.2, and the version that we have out is out here. Now what we do is, whenever I create a new project, for example, this is an SDET project that we created here, right? So this is there in this C:/training folder. So I can right click and say show in Explorer. So all the files that we maintain for that project are there out here for us. We've created something called as a virtual environment. We will learn a lot more about it later. And within this are whatever Python programs we're writing, .py files are there out there. The primary reason, and I see a question also being asked of why everyone can hear me okay, right, team? And if the questions, can you please put it in the chat first? I want to go ahead with the flow of the topics, and then can I come to the questions? Okay. So there's a question as to why do we use virtual environment? The primary reason is very simple. Let us say if I go to file and say new project and just say test project, okay, which we will delete later. We then associate the virtual environment as to where my Python interpreter is. And as you go on adding all the packages to it, you can get those packages and imports associated correctly with it. So you'll know later, team, but primarily it gives you a standalone environment with all the needed dependencies into one folder structure, which you can forward easily to get them executed. So it's a complete setup in itself. Complete list of the Google Docs. Let me send you that list. There are 2 documents, team, that you need. One is the Google Sheet document, the topics, and the second is this document. with what we're discussing each day. Neeraja, there's a hand raised from you. Do you have a question that needs to be answered right now? I unmuted you. Hello? I'm not sure if you have a question, so I'm going to put you back on mute. And put your hand down. If you have a question, why don't you try the chat, please? You wanted the links. Got it. Okay, sure. Okay, day 2. Now, what is it that we will do? Let's look at the code that we generated in day 1 first, and then we will go about the other things. So program code, we're putting it here. I'm naming the files with 0, 1, 0, 2. So that way, whenever we write a Python code, you can look at the order in which we did it. So team, yesterday, the first thing that we saw was a code where we have a line that starts with a hash. So any line starting with a hash sign, which is this, is considered a comment. Why do we need comments, team? Are used for what is the purpose of a comment? I have so many statements here. Then why is it that I need a comment? I may want to write something like, this is just to test how print statement works. So when I write such a note, let us say over a period of time, 6 months or a year later, someone else in the project is trying to take a look at the code. There is detail in English written as to what happened, why we created, and what is the purpose of it. So we can write the purpose of the code that helps to do easier KT. What is KT, team? Knowledge transition or knowledge transfer from one to the other to do easier KT in future. So it always helps to document your code. So basically you're documenting your code in English. So it's easy for someone to understand. Documenting, missing an N. What else can I use comments for? I can use comment to say that I don't want certain line to get executed. Let us say I do not want line 6. This is my line numbers for the code. This is the 8-line program team overall. In this, I do not want line 6 to get executed for a specific run. Could be for different reasons, because I'm testing my code, or I think there's something wrong, or I replaced it with a new code. And I will say, this is now replaced with print new 3rd line. So what I did is comment old code and replace with new code. This way you're not deleting and can easily change it back if needed. So you basically will comment a certain lines of code. Now let us say you want to do something like multi-line comment. So hash sign is used for single line comment. Single line comment. Now there is something called as a multi-line comment. And for this we use at the beginning, that's 3 double quotes team, and at the end. Okay, so this basically helps us to comment a block of code or do a more detailed write-up. Okay, so that's how comments help you. So if I go there now and let us say, I'll come to your questions later, team. There are a few questions that are coming up. This will deviate from me from the following, what I'm doing. So I'll come to your questions later. Python file, I'm creating a new one. I'll call the 03 comments, and I will say this is a single line comment. I said 3 double quotes and gave, look at how the colors are also changing. And we should be aware the PyCharm helps us to color our code based on the keyword, character, or variable / object and so on. So depending on what it is, it's automatically giving us a color. What color for what? As you go along, you'll start discovering it. Don't focus on that too much. You can always change the editor thing. Change the editor settings to make it larger font or change colors and preferences and so on. So there are a lot of features that you can do to personalize PyCharm to your needs or likings. So as people keep using the work day in, day out, they want to have their own kind of a look and feel to it. So you can do a little on the preferences. What is this multi-line command? This helps me to not execute many lines at the same time. So I can block, comment a block of code. Okay, so we will use this team as we go along. You will understand how we can do it. But otherwise, if I say print, here is my end of code, and I'm going to copy this. Print start of code. So what will get printed here? If there is nothing as a print statement, nothing is going to get printed here, team. Remember that. Okay, only print is going to get us things into console, or it will be some error outputs. We have to, when we come to reports and so on, we'll see how we can customize them. But now let's run this 03 comments. I'm going to right click on a team on the file itself here and directly run from here. Okay, so it's a start of code, end of code. Now, if this is not existing, then what happens is you get something called as a syntax error. Syntax error is basically a message from IDE to us, IDE or the code or IDE to us, that I do not understand your instructions. You wrote something that does not resonate with me. So it's like, assume it to be like a Siri team. It knows certain keywords, it does not know a lot of things. Your Alexa or Siri, when we say, okay, Google, what's the weather, it'll know it. But if I ask something which is very much specific to me, it may not, but it'll try and learn over a period of time. Syntax error is basically the fact where, oops, so there are two types of errors, team, that you will face. Okay, the first is your syntax error. This will not, you cannot run the code. You cannot run the code till you correct the syntax error. Will run only till that point. It basically says, I do not understand what you wrote. What do I mean? In this code, when I say print, it knows what it means. If I say print and I say anything, then it has a problem now again. Anything that you see with the red line underlined is pointing to the fact that it has got an issue there and it cannot understand. That becomes our syntax error. And why is this an issue? Because I did not write it in the format it is supposed to be written. which is print, open square brackets, sorry, open brackets, double quotes, write what you want, and again close it. And this is my comments, multi-line comment that I need to say that I don't want to ignore this. I want to ignore this part of the code. So anything I write inside, there'll be no syntax error. So comments are exempt from syntax, but everything else, all else in the code needs to match with the programming language syntax. Okay? So you need to constantly make sure that our code is there with syntax rightly present. There will be one more error that we will get exposed to later, may not be right away, which is called a runtime error. A runtime error is basically there is no syntax error. The code looks okay. I'm executing it, but during execution there is some issue that happened, like a file was not found, or an element is not found, or file is not interactable. There's so many different types of errors that can occur. That's the runtime error. Syntax error is basically when you don't write code correctly and it does not recognize those words. You get the red lines. Runtime error is you wrote the code with correct syntax. When you execute, there is an error that's coming up. So we will be exploring on that. Runtime error comes only during execution. So what we need to do is debug and ensure our code is defect free. We need to do a lot of internal testing for our code, basically what we call as unit testing, as we are the developers. Makes sense, team, what I'm saying? Everyone, are you all in sync with what we're talking about? Okay, now let's talk about a very, very important concept that comes up within the programming thinking. When we talk about programming languages, the whole crux of it is the fact that actually it will be here only. Pick one more folder, new folder. I'll just say images. Okay, so that's there. There's a question if Python is case sensitive. Team, I'll tell you my honest answer. I do not ever care, because I am case sensitive. I will treat everything as being case sensitive. Okay, so think of every programming language to be case sensitive. Why would you want to change the case if it is lower print to upper print? Why don't you stick with being uniform? So it is our discipline which should improve. Python is absolutely case sensitive, team. But you be better. We should become more case sensitive. That is important. So one of the most important aspects of when it comes to programming language, team, is you need to store data. So for any programming language, we talk about how we can put data and then use data, display data, change data, and so on. Data could be user details or bank account details, or let us say your LinkedIn connections, LinkedIn account itself. See, all of this are data and they need to be stored somewhere. local machine. And for this, we use a concept called as variables. Variables help us to store information. So when we talk about variables, I'm going to take things slowly, team. I'm going to introduce you to variables today, but we will expand on it. We will work a lot more on it as we keep going along. So variables are very simple, team. When I want to print something, let us say my name, and I'll say Karthik. First name is okay, and last name is, and I'm going to print city is Los Angeles, and print origin is India. Now these are details about meeting that I want to print. Now what happens with the program is when we write information like that, there's nothing wrong about it. Just that it will always do the same thing every time. It is never gonna change. So that basically means we do something called as hard coding, and we want to avoid hard coding. What do I mean by this? So what we start doing is, instead of saying that I want to put it this way, okay, and let's say I want, now there's someone else, Sam, and it's in Dubai, origin is Dubai, let's say, and this is a print detail for another user team. All that we are doing is printing them, but each time it is a different user. So I have these details hard coded here, and it will always print the same. Now for me, when I want to put them into something that can be more program oriented, we create the concept of variables. So think of variables like your address book in your phone, like your contact list. You do not have to remember the number of every contact that you have. You basically know their name, you search their name, and their phone number will come. Tomorrow, let us say they change their number, and you just go and change that information there, and you will always get that new one. So there is a name to it, and there is a value associated. So whenever I call it by that name, I get that value. So for example, now the same code, if I want to do using variables, I will say there is a variable called fname equals Karthik. Now when I say print fname, what will come up? So let's run this code. I don't want to run any of my old code because that will be too many prints. So I will put my multi-line comment here. See how we are able to use multi-line comment where we don't want to execute something. And I want to print fname. So Control Shift F10. And I get fname. So it is like you're trying to call a friend, but it is not giving you the number. It is giving you the name itself. So you put name itself in a number field, which your phone may not allow you to do, but that's how it is. when you want to call a variable and get the value in the variable, you use the name of it. And see, your PyCharm IDE gives you this assistance as you write your code in suggesting what to do at what point. So now I've changed this. I'm going to right click again and run. So first one on line 14, I got F name. The second one on line 15, I got Karthik. What is happening here, team, is primarily the fact that if I put anything in double quotes, is considered a string. String is a type of, it's a class actually, but it's a variable type. Okay, so I can have data like, see how I'm naming also team, origin city. Unlike other PLs like Java, you do not have to declare a variable and give its type before we use it. So if you notice here, the format has been very simple. On line 17, I'm creating a new one and say origin city is origin country rather is India. And if you look at the naming convention here, team, this is called as camel case. What it does is every character is lowercase except for the first character in every word starting from the second word. So if I say my current city name, long name, but I am talking about how with a lot of clarity we are putting in things. So in programming, when we come to coding, there is a lot of focus on the aesthetics. How we do coding is very important. And you will get asked in a lot of interviews if you go deeper into Python to write code. And the only way, team, and I will write this down, is code as much as you can. You need to be comfortable on basic programming language Python commands and also your typing speed. So when we give an assignment as a coding exercise in interviews team, I'm looking at the way they look at logic and write the correct code. I'll also look at how they do naming conventions, what kind of a process methodologies, naming conventions, etc. we use. And apart from this, we would look at some basic things, team. I will look at how neat your code is to look at and work with, and also how fast you're writing this code, team. Is your typing speed good enough? I do not know of any developer who has very low typing speed, team. Most of these developers have a good amount of typing speed. So it is important for us to know that the only way we can achieve that is by keep writing. So whatever you're seeing I'm doing, write it at your end. Let's do one more thing on variables. Let's talk about different things there. So something similar, this 05 variables. So here I can put something called as my phone, and I'll say 87572. I'll put this in double quotes. And my name was KK. my age, this I'll say 42 as a number. Now, if you notice here, team, and I'll put a comment here, this does not have double quotes. But so there are types of variables, team. And they basically based on what we put into it, and Python automatically assigns it. All right. So if I want to achieve to print something like this, I'll say print my phone. This is my English. Number is comma. Actually, how should find comma my phone. And see, team, just make sure that you name them correctly. Let's do an execution and see what it gives us. So when I give the statement, it automatically looks at it as two things, team. One part of it is string. So anything, though this looks like a number, it is a string as it is surrounded by double quotes. Got it, everyone? And one of the things about programming is we try and write code so that it does not give you horizontal scroll thing. It is little annoying to scroll to the right and see the code. Now, in the same fashion, let's do a few more. It is okay to give blank lines, team. Blank lines do not mean anything in Python. It's just there more readability for our purpose. So my name is, and then I'll say my age is. Okay. And if I write everything, and I have my new code to be able to print out those three statements. So my phone number is, my name is, my age is. Now see, team, here is where we need to learn the art of debugging. Sometimes there is an error which we overlook, and you need to pay a lot of attention to detail. So when we wrote the code, you want to think within yourself as to what is the expected output, and then you want to compare it with it as it happens. So first, think of the expected output before you run the code. It becomes good practice to and helps us become a better developer. And all of these things that I'm mentioning, you can do it in 3 to 6 months. This is not like a 3 to 6 years exercise where you become very good. In 3 to 6 months period, you will be able to achieve all of this easily. You just have to focus and make sure that you're doing things correctly one after the other. Now see, what is wrong here? My phone number is correct. My name is, it is giving me phone. Why? Because I made a programming error. And I did this deliberately. I wanted to show you that it is neither a syntax error, not a runtime error. But the code is not giving us a correct output. If we overlook this and submitted it, it looks so bad when a defect comes from a QA engineer that how come this code comes. So you want to be able to know where the issue is and fix it. So I have to put actually my name is. So this is my name. And as it start typing, we automatically get the variable details. So now let's print it again. So there you go. I expected this and I got this. Do you see anything else as a fault, team, or something that we could change further? Is everything else correct in this code? Do you see anything else? From my perspective, every IT or QA engineer needs to be awesome at attention to that detail. Right, Hitesh, you're right. You got it. Suresh, no, that's not the right answer. What do you think is wrong in this output that we got? Yes, Jamin, you're right too. My phone number can be integer. It does not matter. Age. Yes, Chitra, you're right. Yes, Divya, you're right. So primarily we're looking at the spacing. Why this extra space? I gave an extra space here, thinking that it may not add it automatically, and maybe it did. So I'm going to delete these extra spaces and try and run this again, as long as my output comes out correctly. So all that we're trying to do, team, is overall build things one after the other. So far, so good, everyone. Any questions, please? Okay. So now let's do something about these variables. Let's put it here itself and talk about the type of this variables team. So what happens is, I was talking about this, right? Every variable has a type depending on what data is there. Let us add one more here, and I'll say weight, and I'll put 1.2, okay, with decimals. Now this is a number with decimals. I want to know what data type they are. How are they relevant to us? Why should I know what data type they are? Don't worry, we'll look at it later. So I just do print and I do this type of, let's say, my name, going in that order, and my phone, my age, my height. Oh, this is height, is it? I wanted to calculate. Wait. And now let's run it again. So see how many times we're changing a code and running. By the end of our training, we'll write about 50 to 60 programs, team. That's what we achieve. So now if you notice, the first two are class string. Why are they class string? Because they have double quotes in it. As soon as they have double quotes, does not matter what it is, they'll become string. The next one is an integer. Integer, so you basically have string, anything in double quotes. It can be number, alphanumeric, characters, and so on. Integer. Int is basically a positive or negative number with no decimal points. So the integers that we learn, 0, 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, all of these numbers without decimals are our integers. The next one that we see is called float. Float is basically helping us with numbers that have decimals. Okay. Then we have something called Boolean. And we also have long or double, I believe. We will come to them, team. And we have a list, tuples, and dictionaries. We can see them later. So, but right now, let's look at these as strings, integers, and so on. So now having done this, there is a lot we can do with numbers itself. Another 5 minutes, team, will be done, and I'll be open for any questions. Please be ready with your questions, everyone. Let's do some math numbers, okay? So when I say math numbers, let us say I have a variable called a is 10 and b equals 20. So when I say a plus b, what should come out, team? When I run this code, can you tell me, everyone? What should be the output when I run this code? 10, 20, 30, error, 30, 30, no output. Let's see. And that is where I want you to start imagining things. And it is okay even if you fail in it and you get an error or something. As long as you get that, oh, is it how it works? Is this how it works? That's good enough. See, a plus b is not doing anything unless I say print a plus b. What is a plus b? It is just printing. What did I do with that print value? It is just adding it. It is after that, if I'm not doing anything, then there's nothing to do. So if I say print a plus b, that is when it can print the sum of it. So if I say c equals a plus b and say print c value of c is comma c, all right, and I'll say print type of c. So now how do I write that as type of c? Type of c is comma this. Makes sense, everyone? In my print statement, I can just put one value, or I can put two or more values just by separating it with a comma. It's a new concept. I will expand on that slowly as we keep going along. But just that our print is much more powerful. It has a few more features than typical Java print statement. Sorry, team, 1 second. All right. So what I'm doing here is a simple addition team. I'll say add two numbers. Now this is one of the simplest math operator that you could find. I'm going to copy the same. I'll put it here. Now C is A minus B. Subtract two numbers. And I'm going to value of C is, and again print the type, A star B. Multiply two numbers. Team, if you really want to learn, please look at the video and write the code at your end. And I'll say divide two numbers. So when I run this, I should be able to get the value of C, which is constantly changing. My A has a value, B has a value. If I want, I can change the value of A here and B here. That's what variable means. I have the opportunity to change it whenever I want. Wherever it is referenced, it will start to show that value automatically. That is the magic of it. So on line 7, we created a variable called C and started putting that C is first A plus B, and use the value to print that value of C and what type is it. Then we did more operators with C. So C's new value will be A minus B. So each time I say C equals, it is getting updated with something new into it. And then we have multiply. So it is C is going through 4 changes, and each time it wants to print the value of it and say what it is. I don't want this print statement. So just comment it. And let's run again. Okay, there we go. So value of C is 300. That is adding the numbers, and it is integer. Minus 100 negative, but no decimal, so integer. A bigger number like 20,000, but it is an integer. Our value of C is 0.5 because we divided 100 by 200. So this is a decimal, and that's where comes our float into it. Then the string comes as soon as we put double quotes. Yes, we can create variable C on line 3 also. And I can say C equals nothing, for example, to start with 0. And it keep getting updated. Okay. Now, the same thing, if I want to take it forward, team. Why do we use numbers? Numbers are basically the lifeline of what we do in programming team. So while we have data can be textual or it can be number based. And when it comes to numbers, we do a lot of comparison with numbers team. And I just want to show you how a simple if statement will look. And maybe in tomorrow's session, we will take it much forward. Okay. What happens, team, is conditions. So the same code, see, if I write something like this, what 07, it's take or if condition. So if I say equals 11 and b equals 12, now I can use a concept which is primarily called a condition. It is to change the direction of program flow depending on a condition being true or not. So what that means is as simple as this. If it is weekend, then let us say we eat out. If it is weekdays, we don't eat out. Simple thing. If it is under 65 degrees, wear a jacket. If it is over 65 degrees Fahrenheit, don't have to carry a jacket. So what happens in our real life of how we take decisions based on certain conditions. So let us say that we know that fuel prices are going up from tomorrow. Then you would go and do it, fill up your tank as much as you can today itself if you have an opportunity. So what is it that we're saying? If the fuel prices go up, I will fill the tank today. If it won't go up, I will fill it later. I'm not in a hurry. So that's a real life example, team, and a lot that we will do in programming will relate to it. So if I say something like, if A is less than B, and then say print A is less than B, and I will say else print A is not less than B. So that's a condition. In this case, please note only line 5 or line 7 will get executed. only line 5 or 7 will get executed. Never both at the same time. All that it is doing is checking for this condition being true. Okay. A is less than B. Whatever I highlighted, if that is true, it will come to the statement right below it. If this is not true, then it will go and to the statement under the else part of it. Okay. So when I execute this, let's try and think of it before we get it. What should print team for us? Can you tell me? Which should get printed? Subhashini, your answer is not full. Try for fuller answer. Line 5 first constraint, A is less than. Yes, we expecting that A is less than B should get printed. So let's run this thing. Right click on it when you write a new code. Otherwise, a lot of times it will run the old code. So A is less than B, which is correct. Now I change this to 13 and I rerun this. I will get A is not less than. And I can write multiple conditions in a team. If I say, let's say 10 is less than 20, which is true, always true. Right? The statement will never go wrong. It's be true as there are no variables here. So when we know it, we can automatically write things regularly. I'll say print always true and print 10 is less than 20. Okay. Else print this statement will never get executed as there are no variables in the condition. If there are no variables in the condition, your condition is constant, and that is what it is. Now, what is most important, and we'll continue this in tomorrow's session, team, is the fact that how does it know that these two statements belong to the condition being true and that these two statements that belong to condition being false? And if I say print outside end of the code, okay, the only way we know is through tab or a indent. Makes a block of code. We will discuss this tomorrow, team. But when we run this, it will print always true and 10 is less than 20. Let's hope that it does that. Always true, 10 is less than 20 and end of the code. So if I do something like this, it is not correcting. It automatically is giving me syntax error. The way it knows that these two statements belong under this if statement is by using a tab space here. This tab space lets it know that it belongs to that block of code. Tomorrow we'll discuss more on block of code and more on if statements. That's the beginning of an if statement. A lot more later as it comes. I wrote indent only, right? Yeah. Tab only. Tab space. Tab is the one you'll see on your keyboard for the caps lock. I think that's good for day 2. I'm not going fast. I'm just covering topics, and you should be able to go back, look at the video, and practice. If you're able to practice what we're doing, that's great. Questions, please. Anyone? Otherwise, I'll see you back tomorrow. So same session tomorrow, same time. Anyone who's not members, please note by after tomorrow's session, it'll be only for the members, please. I see one question. Colon, which you use in end of it and else. Can you explain? Yes, I will explain it tomorrow's session. More on the if statement. Basically, colon is what it's saying to us is it is right after the colon, my block starts. That is all that it is saying. And the same thing is here also in else. So it knows that the block of code is starting right after. The small things that you see are those programming inputs that we give for it to make sure Python can interpret. Yes, in Python, variables take data types automatically. How to become a member? For now, just go to ITeLearn.com/pricing, please. You're welcome. Subscribe to email. Yeah, email subscription team. I will send you something about it. The program, you can go to the link. All right, great. We'll see you on day 3, everyone. Thank you so much for your participation. I hope you're able to watch the videos and practice. Okay, and the videos will be in YouTube at least for the first 3-4 sessions. After that, we'll start putting it in ITeLearn. Thank you all. Bye now. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.